Sup, y'all? Welcome to the CrossForge Gaming Podcast. I am your host, Patrick Ryan, otherwise known as Huge Cow Patty or HCP for short. I am joined today only by Assad. Say hi, Assad.
Hi, Assad. I mean, hi.
And so if no one else shows up by default, he wins the game.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, I guess that's not true. You could lose and then I get the point. So we'll see what happens. But you got a 50-50 shot of making it. We got a good show for you guys today. But first, let's get caught up with my panel of one human being. Assad, how's it going? How you been doing? What's going on? Fill us in.
Well, it was a pretty hectic weekend. My sister got married on Saturday, so that was my Saturday. And made the brilliant idea of wearing a full suit when it was like really hot outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't stay in full suit for very long, to say the least. I started building this guy.
Nice.
So I've got like his upper body built at the moment, and then I decided I needed to sleep. So I don't know when I'll start on his lower body, but getting there.
Cool. Is that is a Gundam, right?
Yeah.
What is it? What series is it from? I've only seen Gundam Wing, so I don't.
That one is from which one is it? Yeah, Gundam Build Fighters Try. It's the show about it's a show about these people who actually build these models, and then they use this like system to fight with them.
Oh,
so it's kind of meta.
I feel like we're going to talk about a game that's being released this week that might have something to do with that.
Yeah, very much so.
Because I watched the trailer for it. And so I watched the announcement trailer for it, and of course we'll get into it later when we get to it. But I watched the announcement trailer for it, and I was like, "Oh, this really looks really cool." And then I watched the gameplay trailer for it, and I went, "This looks really bad."
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think the whole customization option looks pretty nice, but
yeah.
Then again, that's like the bane of your existence, though, isn't it?
I mean, it depends. I'm not a fan of a lot of customization in yeah, it really depends on what you're talking about. Because my least favorite part about new Mario Kart, and when I say new Mario Kart, I mean pretty much every Mario Kart since Double Dash. Because I can't remember when they introduced being able to customize the kart. But to me, like when I pick Wario, I expect him to feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. And when I start doing things like, oh, well, I'm going to change the wheels to add traction or take away this, and I change the kart, it's not that anymore. Now it's almost like, why does it matter what character is in my kart? And I realize that you still have the attributes of Wario as a heavyweight, so he has high top speed but low acceleration. And if you were to put Wario in the exact same kart that you were to put Toad in, you're going to get two different results because of how much Wario weighs versus how much Toad weighs, which of course is not the case in a game like Forza, where your avatar matters none whatsoever, to the point that I almost don't even know why they put an avatar in the car, except so that when you see inside of it, it doesn't just look like it's being driven around by nothing. Yeah. But that's how I feel about Mario Kart. But if you're talking about like in a single player game, yeah, I mean, I don't know, because this Gundam game that I'm talking about is a multiplayer game. And I guess I kind of feel the same way about it no matter what it is. I didn't like a whole lot when they added customizable weapons to Soul Calibur, because in my mind, Killick should feel like Killick no matter what. And then yeah. You know, if I want someone with a bow staff that doesn't feel like Killick, I'll play the female variant of him who is slightly weaker in power but slightly faster to make up for that. And then I'm the exact same way about Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers Wii U and Smash Brothers 3DS added all these things where like, oh, well, you can add this attribute to him and make Mario a little bit. And I'm like, no, Mario should just feel like Mario. And that's my beef with all of that. I'm an old curmudgeon. I don't mind customizing the way a character looks, but I hate when you start getting into customizing the attributes. Unless, of course, you're talking about like a single player role-playing game, because in Final Fantasy VII, like I love the materia system in that, because I can go, oh well, I want Cloud to, you know, have a whole lot of HP and not a lot of MP because I'm not going to use magic, so I'll put all this materia in his sword. But Aerith, I want to have a lot of MP and I don't really care about her HP because I'm just going to buff her defense up and stuff like that. So it just depends on the situation. If what you're talking about is what I don't like about Skyrim and Fallout and stuff like that, that's a completely different thing. I don't like crafting. I don't mind the going and like, oh, hey, I opened up a chest and I'm going to put this helmet on and it's going to do this to my character. I don't mind that. What I don't like is go get this flower and kill this deer and gut it for its antlers and then go fish this thing and then walk all the way to this village, this one specific village on the other side of the map so that you can put all the things together and make this thing pop out. And I'm like, no, let me open a box and the helmet just be there. Don't make me work for it.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
So you probably are totally out of the whole Monster Hunter thing too.
Okay, I want to like Monster Hunter. I have bought Monster Hunter 3 for 3DS. I bought Monster Hunter 4 for 3DS. I will probably buy Monster Hunter Generations for Switch when it comes out, because everything about it, it's like, this looks so cool, the climbing up on the mountain and jumping off of it and landing on this monster and killing it. But I got to have someone to play with, because I've tried playing those games alone and it's just so freaking overwhelming because of all of that customization. So that's a game where it's like, I really want to like it. And I think one day I could like it. I just haven't gotten into it yet. But it is, what's funny is when I started getting late into the game of Breath of the Wild, I avoided cooking like it was the plague, because it's the one thing in Breath of the Wild that is crafting. I'm also not super big into the having to use my enemy's weapons. I just want to have the weapons that I have and be done with it. So I was super disappointed when the Master Sword, even that has a cooldown for it. So that just really bummed me out. But anyway, we get late into the game, and my wife, she doesn't have all these preconceived notions of what Zelda should be. So when she learns how to cook, she's like, oh, I can do all this stuff and I can blah, 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 blah. And so she's like going through all these much more difficult areas of the game with no problem at all, because she's got potions and she's upgraded her armor and all. I go in there and I'm just trying to muscle my way through it. Now, I'm doing it because I've been playing Zelda since the Super Nintendo game. So, you know, like with Ocarina of Time, I have learned how to shield and parry and dodge and all this other stuff. And so I'm making it work. But if I had my wife's combat abilities, and this isn't me like dogging her combat abilities, she just hasn't been playing video games as long as I have, I would probably get creamed, because she'll go in there and take a hit and 3/4 of her hearts go away, but it doesn't matter because she's got 17 different things that she cooked that will get all of her hearts back. If that happened to me, it's over. Because I don't have any of that. I'm just relying on the fact that I'm not worried about getting hit, because I know how to not get hit.
Well, I mean, you guys have different fighting styles.
Right.
She prefers to use potions and stuff like that, and you use your combat movement and everything.
Right.
So.
And then there's nothing wrong with it. I actually like that there's that option. And I was, when Nintendo first revealed the cooking mechanic, I was like, I'm not going to be able to buy this game because I'm going to hate it. And then when I realized, oh, that's the only thing where there's crafting, maybe I won't be so bad. And yeah, I was able to play through the game pretty much without touching the parts of the game that I don't like. And likewise, April is able to play the game pretty much without touching the parts that she doesn't like. And I think that's really cool. So that was a really big tangent that we went
Yeah,
on for a long
good way
time.
to open. Yeah.
Yeah. What's going on with me? All last week was E3. I love talking about E3, but now that I'm in this gaming coverage world, and I've always heard like Nintendo World Report and the guys over at IGN and all these different places, as E3 starts approaching, you can tell they're excited, but you can also tell they're dreading it because it's all this news. And now I have like a little taste of what that's like. Obviously, we didn't go to E3. We're still really small channel.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. But like just the hours that I spent prepping shows and recording shows and all that stuff, like just that little bit, I'm like, wow, if they're actually going to E3 and doing all this stuff is obviously harder than what I did. Like,
Oh,
so
definitely.
I got a tiny little taste of what that's going to be like. And I hope, like I wouldn't be so bold as to say that I think we'll send someone to E3 next year, but I'm definitely planning on myself taking the week of E3 off so that I can be at home watching the shows, taking notes, doing like coverage as it's coming, maybe even do one of those.
Yeah.
I personally don't like those dumb reaction videos where like you're watching somebody watch the conference. Like I'm not into that, but I understand that they do really well. So it's probably the kind of thing that just out of necessity will wind up doing.
Yeah.
But like the reason that I don't like them is because I don't know, just when some like, okay, you if you go back to last year and you watch reaction videos to the Nintendo conference, and I bring the Nintendo conference up because they had the Metroid Prime 4 reveal, and you'll see people like the logo comes up and they're like they stand up and they pick their chair up and like throw it through a window or something stupid like that. And I'm like, if the camera wasn't on, I have no doubt that you would be excited, but you wouldn't have caused property damage. You did that for the views. And I'm not the kind of person it's why I don't do a lot of streaming for CFG, because I'm not the kind of person who is going to play a game and then is going to act like I just witnessed the second coming of Jesus because of something that happened in a video game. It's not going to happen. I do get very excited about things, but I don't get so excited about things that people are going to want to watch me get excited about things. So I leave that to Josh, and I was about to say to Ned, but if there's anyone here that doesn't get excited about anything, it's Ned.
Oh no,
So,
he has his things.
well, yeah, I suppose that's true.
But I will add to what you were just saying. I actually recall someone. Well, actually, I saw a still of it, and I was totally unbelievable. As a reaction to the new Halo trailer, and the guy was like, and I'm like, no, there's no way anybody could have that reaction to that trailer. It's like there's no substance to that at all. It's like ridiculous. So I didn't bother watching it.
Right. And it's like so if you're the kind of person that freaked the crap out over Metroid Prime 4, that I get, because we didn't know if Metroid Prime 4 existed, if it was ever going to exist. We knew that Retro probably wasn't working on it. And so it was just there was this mystery behind it. If you're sitting out there right now and you can honestly tell me that you did not know before E3 that Microsoft was working on a new Halo, you need to get your head out of your butt.
Right.
Because that's the only thing that makes any sense to me. So the Gears of War 5 reveal was more surprising than the Halo reveal. Because like I didn't beat Gears of War 4. In fact, I never played Gears of War 4. I don't know how it ended. But as far as I know, when it ended, that could have been it. That could have been the very last Gears of War game that we ever saw. And, so Gears of War 5, yeah, okay, that's cool. That's worth getting excited about because we don't know it. But Halo, we knew that was coming.
Right.
To tear and act like you're surprised by this. So all right, anyway, yeah, so that's what's going on, and I'm kind of back into the flow. We're gonna do Jackbox Party Pack this Friday night. I don't have any guests lined up. I'm really trying to get my new work schedule has got me so out of whack just because I'm like working right in the middle of the day and it's awful, and I need to get kind of back into a flow of I know who's going to be on Jackbox Party Pack, and I know what game we're going to be playing on Friday night and all that stuff. And I got so much going on that I've been really behind on that, but I'm trying to get back into that. So all I can tell you is at the very least, I will be on Twitch with Jackbox Party Pack. I might be playing by myself, but I will be there. All right. Humble Bundle. We are Humble partners. You can find links to that in the description below. Look, if you're listening to this show, you already know about Humble Bundle. You're already paying for Humble Bundle. You might not be paying for a Humble Monthly, but you are definitely paying for Humble Bundle in some form or fashion. You get really cheap games for and they're really good games most of the time. Very rarely you just get something that is just hot garbage. Most of the time you get really good games. They're really cheap. They're a lot of times AAA games. Like in the last Humble Monthly was Destiny. I actually haven't checked to see what the new one is yet. In fact, we're going to do that right now. We're going to go to humblebundle.com and we're going to see what the new Humble Monthly is. So hopping on over there. If you subscribe to Humble Monthly within the next 17 days, you get
a pony.
What is it? Immediately unlock Hearts of Iron 4, Black Wake, and Portal Knights. Now this is $12. The total MSRP according to them is $79.97. I have no idea what any of these are.
But
the first one sounds like a train game of some sort.
Yeah, something.
Hearts of Iron 4 is a World War II turn-based strategy game.
And there's Ned. Okay, cool. I like turn-based strategies. That's
nice.
So sweet. So there's that. Like I said, Black Wake and Portal Knights. Which I mean, Portal Knights is clearly just Portal with a suit of armor. Right? That's what we're going with. None of you have proof that it's not, so that's what we're saying it is.
Well,
but yeah, last month you got Destiny 2. You also got oh dude, I didn't realize Ukulele. I own Ukulele now. Sweet. See, that's the other cool thing about this. I own games I don't even know about. And I've been wanting to get Ukulele, and now I have it, and it only cost me $12. So awesome. That's cool. You also got something called I always love when people put their name in the game. You know, like some directors, every movie that they do is the name of the directors, the movie. And you see some of that with games. You get Sid Meier's does it. But yeah, here's one. Ken Follett's The Pillars of Earth. I don't know who Ken Follett is, but apparently he thinks his name is worth something because he put it in his game, and you should buy it. But then back in May, the games were Dead Rising 4, Kerbal Space Program, and something called Ruiner. So anyway, great stuff. They've also got a store. They've got regular bundles that they do. Let's see. There's a bundle right now for Daedalic Entertainment. I've never heard of that company, but sure, I'm sure they do good stuff.
Yeah, the games in that one are Memoria, Caravan, Deponia, The Complete Journey. Deponia is hilarious, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Deponia Doomsday, Shadow Tactics, Blades of the Shogun, Bounty Train, and The Long Journey Home.
Sweet. And they've started moving into other things. They've got a anime. Anime. It's really manga. How do y'all say it?
Manga.
How do you say it, Ned?
Manga is closer to correct. Manga is the colloquial U.S. term.
I say Moogle. So eat it. But yeah, there's a bundle of some manga, which includes the manga version of one of my favorite anime that I just discovered recently on Amazon Prime, Inuyashika. I actually might get this so that I can have that. It's got 7 Deadly Sins, which that anime is also on Netflix.
And it's also awesome.
Yeah, there's some Ghost in a Shell in here. Or in the
Classic.
Shell, sorry. So yeah, really good stuff in here. And if you use our Humble link, you support us as well as the Humble Bundle. And also why it's called Humble Bundle is because it started out as a thing where you just give money to charity, and that's still what it is. But now with the partner link, you can also give some of that money to the partner that you're deciding to support. And we would like for that group to be us and not someone else, because we're better than someone else.
Right.
All right. How's it going, Ned?
Pretty well. Sorry for popping in late, but I was
Don't apologize
helping
for
someone
that.
with I was helping someone with an issue they were having with a little interesting programmable board project.
Ooh.
Wow.
Well, I would ask you about that, but since you're here, I'm actually going to go ahead and announce this. As some of you know, I run the YouTube channel here. And part of my running the YouTube channel is making sure that the YouTube channel is flush with new content. And so that means that since I can't be on everything, and honestly, y'all don't want me on everything. If you were like, gosh, I'm tired of staring at this guy's face, that's why I go tap into other talent that I've found around here. That's where Cross Examine came from. I approached the 3 people who were on that. We did a few episodes to kind of test the waters and see how it was going to work. I decided, hey, this is really good. And now Cross Examine happens. They haven't done an episode in a while, but that's because one of them went off and got engaged like a turd. So they're actually starting back up this week. So I'm excited for them. But why I bring that up is because I approached Ned and 2 contributors that don't get a lot of FaceTime around here, but you're going to start seeing a lot more of them. Jason and Hunter. Hunter actually came on. He was going to try and help me out with some of the editing. And I guess just because of time, it never happened. So, but he's really, anyway, the 3 of them are super into specifically PC hardware, but also just kind of tech news in general. So I got the 3 of them together, and y'all are doing your first episode this Wednesday, correct?
That's the plan.
There you go. Wow. So they're going to be talking about tech news, like stuff about NVIDIA's new cards. I think they're going to bring up, they're going to talk a little bit about how AMD is giving winners of an Intel competition a Ryzen CPU. I think they have to trade in their Intel CPU, though. They don't get to like keep it.
Yes. Without giving too much away, Intel did a giveaway of the 8086K, which is basically an anniversary processor celebrating the 40th anniversary of their original 8086 processor.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave away 2,000 of those in the United States. Well, AMD said, yeah, you know what would be better than a 6-core, 12-thread processor? How about a 16-core, 32-thread processor? We'll trade you your 8086K for a Threadripper 1950X.
Yeah. That's so cool. So that's the kind of stuff they're going to be talking about. Not to make it sound too much like we're just copying another show, but if you're a fan of the WAN show over on Linus Tech Tips, you're probably going to get some vibes of that. The only big difference will be you don't have to listen to Linus chew on beef jerky in the middle of it every single day. I mean, unless, of course, that beef jerky company starts sponsoring the show, then you might have to listen to Ned chew on beef jerky in the middle of it. But so it's our own little spin on it. Obviously, the 3 of them will kind of make it their own thing. And like with every new show with new host, and I don't say this because I think they're going to be bad at it, but it's just from my experience. The first couple of episodes, they're trying to kind of form a rapport with each other and kind of get into a groove. But I think you guys are really going to like it. I think you're going to like their take on things and kind of what they have to add to this space. So yeah, I'm excited about that. So it won't be live, just like nothing else on our YouTube channel is. It'll show up later, but they're recording their first episode on Wednesday. Excuse me. So so check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Enough about that. So another thing, format change to the show. We're going to talk about the topic first and then talk about the news. That way, if we go on too long talking about the topic, I can go to the news and go, you know what? We're not going to talk about this thing because nobody cares, and move on, rather than spending our entire first part of the show talking about the news and then having to cut the topic short. So we're going to do a little experiment. So today's topic are game subscription services such as Game Pass, PlayStation Now, Nintendo Switch Online, and I didn't include this, but it's actually, I think it might have been the first one. I think they beat not Game Pass.
GameFly?
PlayStation Now.
Oh.
Well, no, I was talking about the
like the built-in ones.
Because
Yeah.
GameFly was it was like Netflix's old model of having to get the DVDs.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
EA Access, I'm pretty sure, was the first one that you could get on a console, and it's only on the Xbox One. And weirdly enough, it's only on the Xbox One, not because EA doesn't want it on the PlayStation, but because Sony doesn't want it on the PlayStation, which I think is bizarre. But maybe we'll talk about that some other time.
I don't want it on anything, so I mean, hey.
But I mean, yeah, hey, that's your prerogative. Yeah, so subscription services. So they're kind of like Netflix. I think the best example of this right now is Microsoft's Game Pass. PlayStation Now, you have to stream the games to the device because the games don't work natively on the hardware. And at first, that meant that you could stream these games to your Vita, your PS4, and your Sony Bravia TV. They have since eliminated support for Bravia TVs, and I don't think you can stream to your Vita anymore. So now you have to have a PlayStation 4 in order for this to work. But the Game Pass for Microsoft's consoles, you actually download the games to the Xbox One and play it like that. It's still communicating with the server. I would imagine, as at a certain interval, maybe it's once a day, maybe it's once a month, just to make sure that your service is up to date and you can still play the game. What's really neat about Microsoft service, though, is all new first-party games get added to the service the day that they are released. And even though Game Pass is technically only on Xbox One, because all of Microsoft's first-party games, starting with Sea of Thieves and moving forward, are available for PC. And as far as the Windows Store is concerned, you have a license for that game through Game Pass. You can play the Microsoft games on your PC with Game Pass. This doesn't work with third-party games because third-party games don't typically fall in the, if you buy it on Xbox, you also get it for PC kind of thing. But yeah, there's that. And then, of course, Nintendo announced the Virtual Console is no more. All of their classic games are going to be available through Nintendo Online. They did say some time ago that you would still have the option to buy the games if you wanted to, just like you can with Game Pass and just like you can with PlayStation Now. But the idea of there being a section of the eShop that's just, here's a bunch of Super Nintendo games and here's a bunch of NES games, that's going away in favor of the subscription service. So now that I've explained that to death, I want to have a conversation with my two panelists about do we think this is a good idea? Do we think it's going to cannibalize the market? Do we think that this is where this industry is going? Do we think it's where the industry should go? I'm gonna open the floor, and actually, Asad, since you've got a PlayStation 4, I'm actually really curious about what your thoughts on it are. Even if you don't use PlayStation Now. But I just, because of how Sony's dealing with it. Anyway, I want to go to you first. What do you think? Do you like this? Do you not like it? What's going on in your head?
Well, I think overall it's a good direction to take. I think it's going to be a way to get more games out to more people, because you can't always, if you're just like dropping like $5-10 on all these games repeatedly, that's going to add up. But I mean, if you're paying just like a flat subscription rate, that's not really much different than, like your Netflix subscription or my VRV subscription. I mean, it seems worth it to me. One thing that does bug me, though, I mean, I could be wrong about this because I haven't looked into it in any great deal, but it doesn't seem like I can access like the PS1 and PS2 classic games unless I go into PlayStation Now.
Right.
Which that kind of frustrates me because I just want a specific few games, but I can't seem to get them unless I do that. So maybe they'll kind of open that up in the future, but for now, I just don't have access to them.
Yeah. Well, I do know at the very least with the PS3 games, one of the reason why they're going with the streaming only option on the PS4 is because the cell processor in the PS3 is so wildly different in architecture from everything else out there. I'm not and actually I was listening to someone talk about the possibility that the successor to the PS4 and the Xbox One coming out as early as 2020, and that they're rumored to be using Ryzen processors. And there you go. There's a topic for Tech Forge Wednesday, maybe. No, I told myself I wasn't going to dictate what they talk about. I'm the producer. I make sure they don't screw it up. That's all I do. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the current generation of consoles, not including the Switch, because the Switch is using an ARM processor, an NVIDIA. Ned, help me out. Is it a Tegra something?
I believe it's the Tegra X1.
Yes, that sounds right.
Very similar to it.
Yeah, and probably somewhat modified. And I do know that it's running on Maxwell because there was a lot of people worried that it wasn't running Pascal, which is the newest one, right?
Right, because they didn't upgrade the Tegra processors to Pascal. The thinking is that probably Volta is going to probably be the next generation of Tegra.
Yeah. So anyway, the PS4 and the Xbox One, and this actually goes for the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. They're running a processor that I've actually never heard of outside of the console space. It is an AMD processor, known as Jaguar something or other, and apparently it's a giant piece of crap.
So
go ahead.
If I can interject here real quick, the Jaguar processor is based off is a iteration of the Bobcat core that originally appeared in very low powered processors. Originally appeared in the AMD E350. That was a processor that was originally designed to compete against Intel's Atom series.
Okay, which was Intel's attempt at getting into mobile, right?
Right, to get the Atom series was designed for what were called ULPCs, ultra low power PCs, like the netbooks of 2010.
Okay.
And so the Bobcat and its subsequent Jaguar cores were originally designed for that use case. Unfortunately, they're based on the same pile driver and excavator architectures that the FX 8000 series was based on. That was such a failure for AMD.
That's what's in my PC, which is why I can't edit good.
Well, so the FX series of processors, the problem is AMD thought that going with what's called continuous multi-threading, or CMT, is on paper better than the SMT, or simultaneous multiprocessing, that Intel uses. In theory, CMT is better because you have two processor cores working on separate threads, and you can divvy up workload between them. Whereas with SMT, basically what you're doing is you're taking the unused parts of a processor core and threading another task through them by fooling the motherboard into thinking that there's actually two processor cores where there's only one.
Okay.
The problem is that CMT requires that you have a scheduler that can keep up with both of the cores. And the implementation in the FX series, particularly in the 8100 series, but also in the 8300 series, the scheduler couldn't keep up. And the way they implemented it with two integer cores and a single floating point core meant that whenever you had a program that used a lot of floating point calculations, basically large decimal numbers, the processor would just choke, because it went from being an 8-core, being able to handle up to 8 threads of integer operations at once, to only being able to handle 4 floating point core operations at once, or per cycle, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And so the processor would just choke.
Okay.
It was more of a design flaw and a design failure than it was any problem with the architecture itself. The FX series did have the benefit that it could handle extremely high clock speeds, and that it could handle large amounts of voltage. So that's why it had such big overclocking headroom.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was that made it a little, well, that's what gave AMD the reputation of being a space heater you could game on.
Yep. Keeps my bedroom quite toasty in the winter. All right. I understood about 45% of what you said, which I feel like was enough to kind of get the general idea.
And I can also tell you about some of the problems of why the cell processor has so many issues being emulated correctly on the PS4, but I think that's a discussion for another time.
There you go. Yeah. I agree. But anyway, so what I was saying was the argument, and I don't know how correct this guy that I was listening to was, but the argument that he was making that, as crazy as the cell processor, crazy as the cell processor in the PS3 was, it was incredibly capable and incredibly powerful, even if it was perhaps overly complicated. And he was making the argument that if you were to really break down, like to compare the cell processor and the processor that's in the PS4, you might find that the processor that's in the PS4, because of all the things that Ned just got done talking about, is not really that much better than the one that's in the PS3. Now, I don't know if he's right or not, and I don't even know that he knows for sure. He may have just been speculating. But if you ask me, that would explain why The Last of Us on PS3 and The Last of Us on PS4 don't look that much different. The game on PS4 looks... I don't even know that you could argue that it looks better at all than it does on PS3. Now, granted, it's not like Naughty Dog put a whole ton of work into the remaster for PS4. I mean, they probably just made it so that it would run on the x86 or x86 architecture that's in these consoles natively, and call it a day. But you would expect there to be like a marginal improvement in things. So anyway, the argument that he was making was that even if Sony wanted to emulate the PS3 on the PS4, that they probably couldn't. Not just because the cell processor is so crazy complicated, but because the processor that's in the PS4 isn't even that much better than the processor was in the PS3 that it could do it. Whereas you don't have that problem on the Xbox, because the Xbox 360 was using an IBM processor. And so the jump, even though both the Xbox One and the PS4 are using a very similar CPU designed by AMD, the jump from 360 to Xbox One was significantly bigger than the jump from PS3 to PS4. I might be talking on my butt. I'm not a hardware guy, but that's kind of what I've been hearing. So, but yeah, so Sony opted to stream the games from a server out in the cloud. And it's just, I think that may eventually be where things head one day, but our internet infrastructure is not there yet.
It could be. They just won't let it be.
Yeah.
Over.
What?
So I think when it comes to game subscriptions being the future of gaming, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo hope it will be.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
The one thing that they test more than anything else is the secondhand market.
Mm-hmm.
Because the secondhand market denies them revenue they could otherwise get.
Mm.
And so if Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo can create a way through a game subscription service that makes the method of getting used games from, let's face it, a GameStop, which is essentially a games pawn shop.
Yeah.
If they can find a way to make services like that obsolete through the use of a subscription service, they're absolutely going to do it because it makes them more money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. And I think so when Netflix started streaming, and I think you were starting to see this with their DVD service, but in particular when they started streaming, you saw kind of a rise of smaller independent films having an audience that they didn't otherwise have, which iTunes, when they got into film, actually, we'll go back. iTunes and the iPod kind of did this for music. There were, you could now buy one song from some artist that you liked for 99 cents without having to buy the whole album. And so what that meant was that someone could, probably with a MacBook, because as much as I don't like Macintoshes, GarageBand is a freaking amazingly powerful audio editing suite that I still cannot believe either Microsoft or Adobe haven't tried to compete with. Like, it just, the only time that I ever say to myself, man, I wish I had a Macintosh, is when I'm editing sound. It's just so much better over there. But anyway, so that meant someone could hook a guitar and a microphone up to their MacBook, record an album onto GarageBand, which, if that's all they were shooting for, sounded really freaking good, could upload it to iTunes, and now all of a sudden the entire internet has access to their music that they would have otherwise had to have burned it to a CD and then hoped that the record store up the street didn't mind putting it on their, cash register stand, and maybe a couple people would pick it up for $5 or whatever. And so you saw that. And then iTunes got into movies, and you kind of saw a similar thing happen with independent films. But you still had the problem of, I have to not only discover that this thing exists, but be willing to pay $1 for a song, or $2 to $3 for a short film, or $5 to $10 for a full length feature from a independent creator that I don't really know anything about. And then maybe I buy it and it's a giant turd, and now I'm out $10. So when Netflix got into streaming movies, it's been muddied as Netflix has gotten more popular, and now you've got people like Jim Gaffigan are putting their comedy specials on Netflix first, and people like Adam Sandler are releasing their movies directly to Netflix, and so obviously competition has gotten pretty fierce. But mixed in with all those goofy Adam Sandler movies that are going straight to Netflix, you have these little independent horror films that otherwise I would have had to have paid, $5 or $10 for on iTunes. But now I'm already paying for Netflix. It's already there. I've got nothing to do for the next 2 hours. Sure, I'll watch your goofy romantic comedy and see how it is, because it's not costing me anything that I haven't already paid. And I think that could happen for games. And I brought this up in the chat I don't remember if it was a contributor chat or the podcast chat, when we were talking about Nintendo's subscription service. But, Nintendo, they put all their stuff on Virtual Console. And that was really cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, I loved it while it was still there. But it also meant that, right next to Super Mario Brothers 3, which was $5, is Urban Championship, which is $5. I'm not spending $5 on an Urban Championship. I might pay $1 for Urban Championship, but I'm probably not going to. However, if that were included in a subscription service that I'm already paying for, and now I've got a bunch of friends over, and I'm like, hey, you guys want to have a good, stupid, fun time? Let's pull up Urban Championship and laugh at how bad this game is. And I just have access to it.
Yeah.
And I think something similar has happened with Xbox Game Pass. I don't have Game Pass. I haven't kept up with my gold subscription on Xbox Live for months, and I haven't tried Game Pass. But I'm going to be real with you. Game Pass is the only way that I will ever play Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves looks fun. It does not look $60 fun. It does look, I already have access to it because I'm paying for something else fun, but it doesn't look go out and spend $60 fun. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is going to be the biggest benefit, not only to the consumer, but to the developer who might say to themselves, I want to try this new quirky thing that I know no one is ever going to pay me real money for, but I can get Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo to license it to pad out their subscription service, and then maybe somebody will try it.
And with streaming, because a lot of times in the community we'll have our streamers go, okay, I'm going to play something different tonight. What should I play? And instead of being limited to just the few things that you have, you could go on like one of these subscription services and like, hey, I can just, spin a wheel or just kind of randomly select something and then we can play that. So I guess in that way, that would be pretty nice.
That would be cool. In fact, when I get around to renewing Patty Plays Pathetically, that would be awesome to be able to just pull up one of these subscription services and go, all right, which one of these games am I going to play for the next hour? It'd be freaking amazing.
Including the game that you were unable to stream during our big stream event.
Yeah, Mega Man, because the stupid Super Nintendo thing that I had didn't work. Starting
to see the benefits of this.
Well,
absolutely.
And absolutely the benefit is, if I want to try, part of me being a mostly PC gamer is slightly perturbed at the idea that the subscription is basically going to be the new demo. On the other hand, I guess coming from a past mostly of PC gaming, I'm used to being able to download a free demo and decide whether or not I want to play the game after playing through it.
Right.
And so,
which is not something that's always the case on console.
Right.
In fact, it's rarely the case.
And so, I guess for me, coming from a PC perspective, the idea of having to pay for a demo, I mean, yes, technically, if you want to call it that, that's what early access is. But early access is a bit different.
Right, because you get the game, and most of the time at a discount.
Right. And that's a critical difference between, playing a beta, which is essentially what you're doing in early access, but you get access to the completed game, assuming the game gets completed. Looking at you, H1Z1.
You can look at PUBG too. I don't care what they say. Hey, it has a release date. Whatever. The game's not done. Finish your game.
No, they're too busy suing Fortnite.
Oh my God.
Yes, because that's a great use of your time. I think the person who wrote Battle Royale should sue them all.
Oh, the Japanese.
Yeah, the original
okay, movie. I know it's a movie. Was it a book first?
I was pretty sure it was a book before it was a movie, wasn't it? Or am I just?
It might have been. I don't have any idea. It might have been. I mean, aren't all the great movies books first these days?
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. They invented the genre, not either of these clowns.
I know.
I mean, and then if they really wanted to, dig into the whole Battle Royale thing, then yeah, the H1Z1s and the Minecraft Hunger Games and they should be getting in on this. But
yeah.
Oh, and then maybe they should go after Call of Duty and Battlefield for getting in on it. Yeah, that's supreme use of their time right there.
I still can't believe
Battlefield.
If
you watched if you've watched the latest Game Theory from Matt Pat and all them, they go into why Blue Hole actually might have a pretty good case because it's being tried in a Korean court, where their ideas about copyright, even though they're based and similar to U.S. law, they have a very different idea of how creative ownership works.
Okay, so what good would winning in Korea do?
Well, that's the thing. If they win in South Korea, which is one of the largest gaming nations on the planet, it severely limits Fortnite's ability to affect the region, the Southeast Asian region. And if PUBG wins in the Korean court, then that sets a precedent that other Southeastern Asian nations may look to when making their own decisions in court.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. I really hope they don't win. I just think it's silly.
I used to fall into the camp, because the first time I heard that, I was like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. I mean, because if that's the case, Nintendo should sue everyone for everything.
Yeah.
Anything that didn't exist on Atari first, which, let's be real, because nothing scrolled on an Atari, it was all screen by screen. Basically, Nintendo could just yep, I'm suing you and I'm suing you. Just go nuts with suing people. And
that's what they used to do.
Well, yeah, but they yeah.
They found a better way to do things afterwards.
Right. But then I read why, and it has everything to do with how Epic handles licensing the Unreal Engine and the fact that PUBG uses the Unreal Engine. That's when I was like, okay, they're not really suing Epic Games for creating a battle royale game. They're suing Epic Games because they're supposed to be supporting PUBG Corp as a licensee of Unreal 4, and by creating a competitor to a game that they're supposed to be supporting, they have put themselves in a situation where they have a conflict of interest.
Exactly.
And I still think it's a little goofy, but that's just because I think for the most part, most lawsuits just shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But if they're going to happen, I don't think PUBG Corp is being quite as petty as they may have appeared to be at first once you start looking into the real reason that they're doing it. So
personally, I think the best way to settle the whole problem is you take a group of devs from Blue Hole Studio, the makers of PUBG. You take a group of devs from Epic Games. You find a third battle royale game, and then you just have the two of those dev teams play that third battle royale game, and whoever wins the most matches, they win the lawsuit.
Yes.
Trial by combat.
Let's take it one step further. They have to play that stupid Command and Conquer game on the phone.
Oh, good lord! I would
like, you know what?
I give up. Patrick, that's terrible.
Just punish both of them. Anyway,
no. Here's how it works: Smash Brothers Melee, Final Destination, no items, everyone's Fox.
Yes.
Oh, good grief!
Do it. That's it. That's how we should settle all lawsuits. Just everything. Be like, here's what you're doing.
No. Here we go. So that new third-party game, Realms Royale, just came out, right? It's based off the Paladin franchise. Yeah. You have them play that.
Mm-hmm. It was on. Didn't that just come out on Switch, or is it coming out on Switch or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, like that.
Well, if it involves swords, like I think it does, it sounds cool.
They have to play. They have to play Fortnite, but they have to do it cross-network, and one of the consoles is a PS4.
And they coin flip to see who gets the PS4.
Right. Anyway, back to to our topic.
Yeah, we got loads of unreasonable
subscriptions.
gameplay requests. So,
oh yeah, I could go on with unreasonable gameplay requests all day. If I did an entire episode where I just spit out nonsense about stupid game stuff that'll never happen. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I think would be one of the benefits. How did we get on Fortnite and PUBG? Oh, we were talking about early access games, and I brought
up right.
that PUBG had a release date that meant nothing.
But back to the original topic about game subscriptions, services. I think it's all going to depend on how the game subscription service is run.
Mm-hmm.
If it's run as an incentive of, the classic, the first one's free, kid, then I think it could be quite the moneymaker, and it could be somewhat of a boon to gamers.
Mm-hmm.
If it's used as a way to promote a certain select number of titles, I could see it becoming basically just another marketing scam.
Yeah. No, I can see that, especially if they started getting into situations where, let's say Microsoft, because it seems like Game Pass is so far the most successful of the ones that exist, which is weird to say since it's limited to the console that is doing the worst. And Nintendo Network, their thing's not actually out yet. It's coming in the future. But let's say Microsoft one day is like, oh, hey, Halo Infinite, it's exclusive to Game Pass for the first 6 months or something dumb like that. Like, yeah, I can see that being a freaking disaster.
And you know what? I could totally see them doing it too.
I could absolutely see it do. I think it would work okay if they wanted to do something like, okay, so Smite, for example, is a free-to-play game that has some microtransactions in it. And I believe that it works very similar to Killer Instinct. And actually, let's throw Killer Instinct in there too. You get to play for free. You can buy the characters if you like, but if you don't want to, the characters are on a rotation, similar to how they are in, is it League of Legends that functions like that?
I think League and Dota both kind of function like that.
Okay. Yeah, and if you're like, oh, hey, I like this guy a lot, so I'm gonna spend $5 so that I have him and he never goes out of the rotation. Now, I don't know about Smite, but I know Killer Instinct, once the season is over, they usually bundle all the characters together for like stupid cheap. And in fact, sometimes they just give them away with games of gold, and you don't have to pay for them anymore. I could see it not being such a big deal if they were like, oh, hey, if you got Game Pass, you just have all the Killer Instinct characters. You don't have to worry about buying the pass. Now, of course, if you stop having Game Pass, then you lose access to the characters and that you just go back to the rotation. And the same thing with Smite. I could see that being kind of like a marketing gimmick that wouldn't be awful. But anything else, if they were like, Halo is exclusive to Game Pass, even if it was for something like a week, I don't see that going over well with people.
You get, or if you subscribe to Game Pass, you get early access to the Halo Infinite beta.
Yeah, something like that. I don't see that going over real well. I can see him doing it, just like you said, but yeah, I think that would rub people the wrong way. I guess giving people early access to the Halo Infinite beta, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, is better than giving them early access to the Halo 3 beta if you buy Crackdown. But which is, let's be real here, if you paid money for Crackdown, that's why you did it. Was because you got into the Halo 3 beta.
That's horrible.
But yeah.
Although admittedly, Crackdown was a fun game.
It was fun. I got it. It was one of the very first games with gold games that I ever got. And I played the heck out of it. I never finished it, like beat it, but I had a whole lot of fun with that game. And I'm real disappointed that Crackdown 3 is like Kingdom Hearts 3. It's never coming out. Or like Final Fantasy 7. It's never coming out. And I know everybody's like, but Kingdom Hearts 3 has a release date. Yeah. How many times has it had a release date?
I don't remember it having a release date before now.
Surely it had a release window, though.
Well,
see, I'm counting that.
Okay. All right.
So, anyway, yeah, I could see what you're talking about, Ned. I could see that rubbing people wrong. Okay, but now, get this. Like, what if Valve tomorrow is like, hey, $10 a month, you've got access to every game on Steam.
Ouch.
You'd do it.
Yeah, I'd try it at least.
Yeah. There's no way you wouldn't at least give that a whirl for a month.
But man, that is...
Oh, it'd be over.
it would definitely be over.
I mean, that'll never happen because there's no way that like Ubisoft is going to be like, yeah, sure, $10 a month, every Assassin's Creed game. That's not going to happen.
Well,
I mean, not unless you wanted to pay Ubisoft. Ubisoft would take your $10 a month and give you that, but they're not going to let somebody else do it.
I mean, EA sort of lets you do that with if you have Origin access through the PC, because you can get, I think you basically get to play any new game released for up to 10 hours without having to actually buy it.
Right.
As long as you're subscribed to their, what is it, EA Origin Insider Access or something like that.
Something like that. Mm-hmm.
But that violates your demo rule.
Yeah, and that's why I don't subscribe to it.
So I actually wanted to talk about that service specifically, even though I forgot to bring it up in the notes, because it's the one of these services that exist that could be cross-platform and isn't. There is EA Access on Xbox One, which is $5 a month. But you can pay for either 6 months or a year all at once, and you get a pretty steep discount. I think a year of it is $30, which now you're getting into like Nintendo Online cheap, because Nintendo Online is going to be $20, and that's pretty stinking good. But you don't also get the PC version of that service, and the PC version of that service cost more. Now, I think you get more out of it on PC, but the only reason that, like, I'm not a huge EA gamer, but I did seriously consider getting this when I thought that it was going to also work on PC. And when I discovered that that service is completely different and walled off from the Xbox service, I said no. And I think that's now I get it if they want to be like, hey, it's cheaper on Xbox because you get less, so it's a little bit more on PC. But I don't understand why they don't have some sort of bundle where you can subscribe to both. I think that's ridiculous and stupid.
Yeah, so with EA Origin Access, which is what the PC version is called, now that I've actually taken the moment to look it up.
Oh, goodness.
You can unlock play of over 100 PC games through Origin Access, and they're fixing to have an upgraded version called Origin Access Premier, because we all know sticking more words on a title makes it that much more premium.
Yes.
Indeed. Just ask Street Fighter 2.
And in things that are going to be included in Origin Access Premier, you guessed it, Battlefield 5 and Anthem.
Oh.
Okay, so it's just the regular thing that they have out now, you get so many hours of new games, and then I actually think if you want to buy the game, you get it at like a pretty steep discount. I don't think it's like half off or anything crazy like that, but it's still cheap. So this Premier thing is more like Xbox Game Pass, where you just get everything.
Well, Origin Access does give you access to certain full games, but a lot of them are older titles.
Yeah, like the Command and Conquer games and
the ones that were so good.
Like you get full access to Battlefield 4.
Okay.
And Titanfall. And Titanfall 2, actually.
So that you and 7 other people can try and get a game of Titanfall going.
Interestingly enough, on Origin Access, Mass Effect Andromeda and the first Star Wars Battlefront are included as well. So basically, the games that either utterly failed or that nobody plays anymore are the games you can get full games on Origin Access.
Interesting.
Whereas Origin Access Premier is apparently going to include, they say, be the first to get full access to EA's new releases on PC, as well as access to a collection of 100 plus incredible PC games and a 10% discount on Origin digital purchases. So basically, this is going to be the GameStop Power Up Rewards, but it's for EA only.
10%. I get a bigger discount on games through Amazon Prime for physical stuff. I get 20%. That's ridiculous, EA. I mean, I'm paying $120 a year for it, but what, you know?
Bro, yeah.
Ridiculous. Okay, so what's the... Can you see there what the price differences are in the two things?
Well, Origin Access Premier is not up and running yet.
Okay, do they have this pricing structure for it yet?
Just a second. So Origin Access, the current version, is $4.99 a month or $30 a year.
Oh,
PC.
Well, then that actually is the same price as the Xbox One. Maybe they dropped the price because I'm pretty sure when it launched, it was more expensive.
And EA Access is also $4.99 a month or $29.99 a year.
Okay, yeah.
Interesting. Whereas you've got like
no, go ahead.
Because I was looking up PlayStation Now and Xbox Game Pass while he was looking up all that stuff. PlayStation Now, like, you have the ability to get a 7-day free trial. You also have the ability to get the first month for $9.99.
Okay.
But then after that, it is $20 a month.
Ooh.
It's pretty steep, especially considering I think the stuff that they have in there is not worth it.
Well, not only that, but like we mentioned before, you're streaming those games. You're not even downloading them.
Yeah. So I don't think PlayStation Now is there yet.
No.
I don't think they're where they need to be right now at all. It gives me the feeling that like a lot of the games that I saw were stuff that they I feel like it's stuff that they gave for free with PS Plus. I could be wrong, but I mean it just seems like the quality of games isn't there. Now Xbox Game Pass on the other hand, $10 a month. And I saw like their preview, like just their little like 5 games, like this is some of the featured games we have in there. All 5 of those games are pretty dang good. And then I looked at the rest of their list, is like, oh yeah, this is a much better deal.
Yeah, it's a decent list. I mean, they're like with anything, just like with Netflix and with Hulu and Amazon Prime Video, there's some turds in there, but for the most part, it's good stuff.
So yeah, and even though this is something interesting, you can actually use PlayStation Now on a computer.
That's right.
Because I guess there's this little USB dongle you can get so that your computer can read the controller, which I might get just for the fact that I'd rather use my PS4 controller than the Xbox 360 controller I'm using, because it's kind of falling apart. But that's besides the point.
I am 99% certain that Steam has built-in drivers for PS4 controllers if you USB it.
I am gonna have to look into that because I have yet to be able to get it to work that way.
I mean, I'm not certain. I know that the Xbox controllers work natively because Microsoft, but I'm almost like, especially because when I play Titan Souls and you go to the controls menu, the picture of a controller is quite clearly a PS4 controller because it's got that goofy little mouse pad thing in the top of it. And so, yeah, I'm almost positive that if you plug in your PS4 controller via USB, that anything that you got from Steam, at the very least, has native support for it. But I could be wrong.
I'll give that a shot. But I mean, that dongle would allow me to use it wirelessly, which would be nice because I have a tendency of trying to pull my laptop off my desk. Otherwise,
it's pricey.
Yeah.
So to answer your earlier question, Patty, Origin Access Premier, when it launches later this summer, will be available for $14.99 a month or $99.99 a year.
Interesting.
I mean, okay, so if you buy it for a whole year, you get a pretty decent discount actually. What's someone good at math? What's 15 times 12?
Roughly 180.
Okay, so you're getting almost. I mean, it's not quite half off, but
you're
close
getting about a 40% discount.
Yeah, which is about what if you pay for the other one for a full year, and it's $30 instead of the $60 or whatever. So like I get that, but considering I don't know about PlayStation Now. I'm pretty sure PlayStation Now has some third-party games in it. Not probably not a whole lot, but so PlayStation Now has third-party games. Of course, it's $5 a month more than EA, but Microsoft's has third-party games. Has every new first-party game, and actually going back a ways because I went and looked. Halo 5, which was not included in it to begin with, is now there. And not that I care. The game's turd. But it also has the Master Chief Collection. It has, I'm pretty sure, some Xbox 360 games in it. And it has a lot of third-party games in it. And it's the cheapest of all of them. And EA's is going to be limited probably to EA games. I mean, I know they sell some third-party stuff in the Origin store, but they don't have the library of third-party stuff that, say, Valve or even Microsoft have available to them, and they're charging more. And you can't use that on the Xbox platform or on the PlayStation platform. Now, I think you could reasonably justify the $15 a month if they were like, hey, this also gets you access to all that stuff on Xbox, Sony, and you get to play FIFA 19 on Switch because that's the only game we're going to put on there. But if they were like, it's platform agnostic, $15 a month, I could, if I were an EA fan, justify that. But with it being limited to whatever I can get Origin on, so I guess technically it's cross-platform because it's PC, and I'm sure Origin is on Mac and Linux in some form, but that's not enough. It's not enough. That's stupid. You're stupid, EA. Hate you. No.
Well, see, this kind of makes me wonder if at some point they might do what VRV did and actually like combine surfaces into one.
Right.
See, that might make a lot more sense, and that might be something they can do at some point. I mean, I think they probably need to figure out what they're doing first before someone attempts that, but I could probably go for something like that, something that would expand my options more.
Yeah. I definitely think it makes sense for the first party developers to get into this. I mean, and Nintendo's, of course, Nintendo's is cheap. It's $20 a year for a single person, and it's something like $30 a year for a family pack. And that actually comes with 8 individual accounts. And it's not like, so Xbox Live Gold, I can pay $60 a year or whatever it is for Xbox Live Gold, and everybody on my console has access to all of the gold features. But if my wife were to go onto a separate Xbox One, she would suddenly lose all that. Nintendo's online is the 8 people that you have put in your family plan. So you and 7 other people, they just have the service. If I buy my wife a Switch, she has Nintendo Online on her Switch. She doesn't have to be on my Switch. Same thing with my son. If I bought him one, and I'm actually thinking about some of us here at CrossForge Gaming that all have Switches being like, all right, I'm spending $30 on a year. My son is going to have one. My wife is going to have one. I have 5 left. For $5, y'all can have it. And actually, if I did it for $5, I would probably make a profit on it. Yeah. Well, no, it would cost me $5 because $5, 5 people, $25. I'm still at $5. But yeah, so that's the thing. But and again, I'm bringing that up because Nintendo's Game Pass is not Microsoft's. It's going to primarily be NES games and eventually Super Nintendo games and I'm still hopeful that they're going to add N64 and GameCube to it. But I'm not going to get access to the next Mario Kart through this online service. I'm not going to get free access to the next Mario game or anything like that. So it's not really the same kind of beast. It's a subscription service for old stuff.
I wouldn't mind it for Nintendo, honestly.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think that's the big difference between Nintendo and Sony, and particularly Nintendo and Microsoft. Sony's getting to where they have the back catalog to support this kind of thing, but no, Microsoft's not there yet. You're getting access to the entire original Xbox library would not be enough to entice me, because I literally like 2 games on that system. They're both the Halo game.
If I could be perfectly honest, if Sony's PlayStation Now service had their extensive RPG catalog, I would be so down for it.
Yeah, I might pay $20 a month for that.
But I'm not seeing like those on there.
Yeah.
And that's horrible. That's so horrible. It's like the best thing that they had going for them. I miss those days.
Yeah. Switch seems to be getting all the cool RPGs. That Octopath Traveler.
Well,
can't wait.
Somebody needs to revive the Suikoden series. That's all I got to say.
When was the last time a game for that came out? Like a core game, not like some
PlayStation 2.
Wow.
Or was it? Yeah, it was 2. Yeah, it was Suikoden 5, I believe.
Back when the last core Kingdom Hearts came out. Well, hey, Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out. Who knows?
Well, but it's a Konami property. That's why I'm so concerned.
Oh, ow.
Yeah. And really, the last game that came out for it was just bad.
It was bad, yeah.
Well, don't worry, Assad. I'm sure Konami will have you a pachinko machine soon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? The Bomberman game, after they updated it and took out all the stuff that made it awful, it's not half bad. And that's a Konami property, which is weird.
Well,
so weird.
We'll see. Maybe next year's E3 or something.
Yeah. Anyway, right. So those of you at home, we want to know what you think about these subscription services. Do you have any of these? Do you like them? Honestly, if I were keeping up with my gold subscription, I probably would have. Oh, actually, that's another thing. So Nintendo's, which again, we talked already about how they're a completely different beast than what Microsoft and Sony are doing. Because Microsoft's is new games, Sony's is something that just doesn't seem appealing at all. And then EA, they have like this weird tier system and it only works on certain things. But Nintendo's, again, you're getting the paid online multiplayer and you're getting the game library. Over on PlayStation, they're 2 different things. You have to have PlayStation Plus to play online. And then, of course, you get the selection of free games every month. And PlayStation Now is a separate subscription service. The same thing is true of Microsoft's. Xbox Live and Xbox Game Pass do not come together. And because a lot of these games, the focus is multiplayer, I guess it makes perfectly fine sense to have Xbox Live Gold and not have Game Pass. But it doesn't make any sense, if you ask me, to have Game Pass and not have Xbox Live Gold. Because Sea of Thieves, for example, you'll have access to Sea of Thieves because you have Game Pass, but you won't actually be able to play it if you don't have Xbox Live Gold because that game is online only. If a game like Destiny were to ever be included in Game Pass, you'd run into the exact same situation where you have access to the game, but you can't play it because you can't get online. And I mean, I guess in that situation, having EA access on Xbox Live or on an Xbox One would give you access to a game like Titanfall, but you couldn't play it. Not just because no one's playing it anymore, which makes me very sad because that game is amazing.
Yeah.
But because you need Xbox Live Gold. So if you're what do you guys think if you're gonna have these two things as being necessary? Game Pass, well, not Game Pass is necessary, but paid online for multiplayer. Do y'all think that they should offer a package where maybe you get both of them and they take? So what is it? Game Pass is $10 a month.
10 a month.
And Xbox Live, if you were to pay for it monthly, is something like $5. So that's $15 a month. They bundle it together for like $12, or maybe they just charge you full price, but they make it the same thing. What do y'all think? Do you think something that people would be interested in? Do people just like having it separate?
I think they probably have it separate at this point, since they don't have that established user base yet. So they don't want people to, like, if they were to just raise like the price of like Xbox Live Gold to include that in there, it'd be like the people who are not interested in that right now would be like, oh, why? I don't want this. Why are you charging me for this?
Mm-hmm.
So I think they'd probably need to establish the service a bit more to get that type of bundle. I think, if it is out long enough and it becomes more well received, then that might be a possibility. But for now, I don't think they could pull it off yet.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, obviously, people like convenience. And if they could make it convenient to where you could renew your Xbox Live Gold and your Game Pass at the same time, I think there's a lot of people who would take that option.
Yeah.
At the same time, until that can get put together, I think Assad is right that until there is a sufficient number of people who have subscribed to Game Pass, I'm not sure it makes sense for them to bundle them together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know I said probably in the Facebook community one day that I thought they should be included. Not necessarily that gold shouldn't be offered separately. I think gold should always be offered separately from Game Pass, but that I think it's stupid that Game Pass isn't priced to include gold. Again, for the reasons that I listed. And a few people who misunderstood what I was saying, because they thought that I was saying that they should both go away as separate things and just become one. A few people who subscribe to Xbox Live Gold who don't also subscribe to Game Pass said what you guys were saying. I don't want to pay for this thing, and so I don't want it included. And that's not what I was saying. What I was saying was keep gold separate, but I don't understand why Game Pass exists without gold being included. Because again, 50% of the games that are included in that, you're going to want gold for. Mm-hmm. And you're already paying $10 a month for this thing. Like, I get it if you don't want to be like, okay, we're just going to include gold with the $10 a month subscription. Although, I think if they would do that, I mean, the PR boom that Microsoft would get for doing that, and I think they could afford it, would be absolutely amazing. But even if they wanted to be like, you know what, we're going to increase the price of Game Pass $2. It's now $12 a month. It includes gold. I think people like Game Pass subscribers who aren't subscribed to gold, and I, while I don't have the numbers in front of me, I would be surprised if that number was more than, say, 10% of people that have Game Pass. I think that 10% would be upset, just like everyone who subscribes to Netflix gets upset when Netflix raises the price 50 cents to $1 and cries, I'm going to unsubscribe. And then they don't because it's freaking Netflix. It's already an amazing deal. Like, Netflix could go up. Honestly, I think Netflix would have to go up to $20 a month before I would start saying to myself, maybe I can't afford this.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just the wealth of stuff that I get with it is just incredible. But yeah, so that's my thing. Anyway, like I was saying, those of you at home, we want to know what you think. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, you can go on Patreon. I guess you can comment on what you think, but I'm going to be real with you, because I really only use Patreon to post this podcast. I'm not going to promise you that I will see your comment. So you're much better off going over to the YouTube channel and commenting there, where I will most likely see what's going on there. And just let us know what you think. But an even better way to tell us what you think is to go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/CrossForgeGaming, or facebook.com/groups/CrossForgeGaming. And yeah, do you subscribe to any of these things? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Do you think this is the future of gaming? Do you think this is going to be detrimental to some section of the gaming, other than, I mean, obviously this is going to be detrimental to the secondhand market. So obviously GameStop is not happy about this. And I've mentioned on the podcast before, there was a retailer in Australia after Game Pass came out that just stopped selling the Xbox, because they're like, we don't make any money on this thing and you're taking away our revenue. So they just stopped doing it. So there's definitely a revolt. There's definitely people who don't like it. Yeah. All right.